Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's guest is Michael Arterberry. As a seasoned motivational speaker, Michael has been motivating, inspiring, and changing the lives of teenagers and adults since 2008. Michael helps people to use what they have gone through to get a breakthrough. He walks his audience through the effects of their past and present trauma, including the most recent impact of society's imbalance. He was an amazing guest, had a lot of good nuggets of wisdom. So let's go and say hello to Michael. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Guess what, everyone? My book is out. It is a revised and updated edition of a book I wrote 5 years ago called No Frickin' Way, 21 Days to Ditch the Diet and Lose Weight the Keto Way by Loving Yourself to Health. When I first wrote the original book, I was not a believer in the low carb movement, but after all the years of research I've done, I am sold out for life. In this book, you will learn about all the lies you have been fed, how to engage in loving self-care, how to eat nourishing foods that provide massive energy, why the ketogenic diet is not a fad, how to heal your body through fasting, why you should move your body to get stronger, and how to create an empowering mindset. Start reading now and finally achieve the high energy and positive body image you deserve. Check it out on Kindle, on Amazon. And if you like it, please leave us a review because this will help more people find it. I really want to inspire people to not deprive themselves, but to nourish themselves with loving self-care and amazingly healthy food so that they can age stronger. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Hey, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you and your audience, Tracy.
Oh, me too. So thank you. Hey, so for the listeners that don't know who you are yet, why don't you give us a little history of who Michael Arterberry is?
Okay, who am I? I am, and I call myself the Master Encourager. I feel like I've qualified myself to be called that because I've endured many things on a personal level, but I've been able to take the things that I've endured on a personal level, exchange them and use them to motivate others. As far as what I've gone through, I grew up in a home with a raging alcoholic father. He raged from the time I was born into the time he died when I was 16. Grew up in poverty. Both my parents worked, but my dad's money went to drinking. My mom raised 4 kids with housekeeping salary, and I grew up in a home with dysfunction. When you have a dad who's an alcoholic and he's passing all those things down through the family. But I took those things and I used those and I harnessed those things, and it gives me the ability to feel pain when others have it, and then also motivate me to help people find balance and security in their lives.
Yeah, gosh, that's quite a challenge. So how'd you do that? Like, you're 16, your dad dies, you have 3 siblings, then what?
Well, believe it or not, his death was a reborn. We all were reborn once he died. I don't want to say all. My siblings, him being an alcoholic, I think each one of my siblings, he symbolized something different. I have an older brother who became an alcoholic like him. So he looked up to him. So when he died, he felt as if he lost like this mentor. Whereas for me, I can remember the craziness that he created in my home, and like he died in a car accident. And imagine we're in the emergency room. He's in like intensive care, and he's caused so much turmoil in our home that we all questioned if we wanted him to survive. So, you know, when you say he died and I'm 16, I felt as if it was like a rite of passage. You know, I was able to live life without worrying. Like when he was alive, no matter how caught up I got with having fun during the day, something would always tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, buddy, don't get too happy because you got to go home tonight. So once he passed away, it gave me the ability to live a lot freer.
Yeah, I was just thinking that term, freedom. I can relate to you, Michael, because my dad was an alcoholic, and thank God my parents got a divorce when I was 10. So I didn't have to live in that environment anymore. And we were living in Florida for like a year and a half, but we came back to California and he stayed there, and I was happy. So
yeah,
I get it. So you're 16, you feel this new freedom. And then what brought you to, like, what did you do next?
So what happened is, during all of the craziness, I was blessed to be an elite athlete. So my mom didn't believe in counseling, so she got me into sports. So at the age of 8, she started to rotate my sports. So it was basketball, baseball, football, and soccer. I played all 4 of those sports from 8 until I graduated high school. I could have gone to college for all 4, but I chose football, which was my favorite. So when you say how my life kind of unravels, during the time that everything's crazy in my home, I created this world that protected me from the chaos. What world did I create? I created my coaches to be my father figures. My teammates were my brothers and sisters. And the accolades that I got from being so good in the sport is what you would get in a home that was nurturing and loving. What I did is, throughout my life, I was always put into leadership roles. I was a big kid. I had a choice between being the bully or to be the one to protect those being bullied. So at a young age, I took pride in protecting those that were weaker. If it was physical and I had to beat somebody up, I would, or if it was like dodgeball and I had to put someone on my team that was weaker to protect them. So I did things in that nature. But from 16 on, what I did is I dove into the sports, graduated high school, went off to college, got a social work degree, and then I mixed my social work with my life of what I went through, and that turned into motivational speaking. It turned into me writing a book. It turned into me creating all these wonderful things to encourage people. So when I mean the master encourager, I take what I've gone through in life, and rather than using it as something to fail, I use it as a catalyst to be successful.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. And what is your favorite part about all that?
My favorite part about all of that is when I have an opportunity to work with someone and you see them do something that you downloaded, you know? People always ask, what is your definition of success? And the first thing most people do is they turn the mirror on themselves and talk about, something that they would accomplish. For me, success is having a client, working with someone, you told them to do something a certain way, and they do it, and you watch them reap the fruits of it, and that is what makes you feel good. I've worked with teenagers, so like I had a young girl who came into my groups. I have a nonprofit, I work with the youth, and when she came into my group, out of 4 generations of her family, no one ever graduated high school. So you're like, wow, imagine the bar is set so low. So when she came into my group, I knew she needed a little extra And I brought her under my wing, and I'll never forget when she walked across the stage to get her diploma. I mean, I was crying like a baby because I knew no one in the audience knew how hard it was for that girl to actually walk across that stage to get a diploma. But that is what makes me happy, is to see people flourish because you speak life into their world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm getting like all teary eyed from your stories already, especially the one with you protecting the kids that are being bullied. That is
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
Yeah. Let me expand on that. Check this out. And I tell this story in my speaking. Um, so I do that. Imagine I do that from kindergarten on. And as the grades got older, I didn't have to fight as much because I could use my words. But I'm telling you this because I went to my 25-year high school reunion. And when I walk in, my class president pulls me to the side and she's like, listen, I just want to tell you that people are here tonight just because you emailed and called and told me you were coming. And when she told me, I was like floored. But that, in my talks, I talk about how do you want to be remembered. And I did all of that, never expecting that in return. But I walk into my 25-year high school reunion, and these people remembered that I was selfless and I helped them in a time that they really needed some help.
Wow. Did you grow up in Connecticut, Michael?
No, I grew up in Westchester. So I grew up, about an hour from where I live at now. It was a strange town because it was split from north, south, east, west. But I say that, I mean that, but I say that because each parts had different people. So I grew up in the south side, which was the ghettos. We didn't have much money, where there was a lot of poverty. But because my dad drove a bus, I didn't go to school in my school district. I went to school where he drove, and he drove a bus in an affluent, rich neighborhood. And I'm happy that I had that opportunity, because being exposed to something different than what I was growing up in allowed me to aspire to want more. Because I would come home and my friends in my neighborhood, you feel bad, but they didn't want any more than what they saw. And what I wanted was, I went to my friend's house for play dates. And I mean, they had these monster raised ranches and mansions. And so as I grew up, I constantly said to myself, I don't want this to be what my life looks like. And fortunately, I was able to break that cycle because I have two children of my own, and I have a before and an after story where my kids only get to play part in the after.
Yeah, that's good. How old are your kids?
My daughter is 17 and my son is 13.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good point, is because when you're exposed to something else, you know what's possible. Whereas when you don't see all of that and you're stuck, like I want to say, like in the mud, you're just kind of down here, you don't see what's possible. So you're satisfied with less.
Yes. Satisfied with less. And then, I like to use the term, and as a personal trainer, you may chuckle when I say this, hungry. I like to see things that make me hungry. You know what I'm saying? And as an athlete, I have, and as a competitive person, I have a ferocious appetite. So like, I played college football. I graduated college. I tried out for professional. I didn't make professional, but because my appetite was so ferocious, I had to start bodybuilding. And so I constantly have to find things that really, satisfy that hunger. But I try to create that with people that I work with, is that if you can get a person to be hungry, to want something, it gives them a reason to wake up in the morning and have purpose.
Yes. I 100% agree with that. I was talking to my clients. We did a group Zoom call, and I just said, if you're not getting out of bed every morning excited about your job, then maybe it's about time to think about something that you could do to get excited to jump out of bed every morning for. And we all were born with a purpose. We are all born with gifts that, we don't use. So.
Yeah. And when you say we're born with gifts, the funniest thing is, so I'll do a venue, I'll speak somewhere, and they'll pay me. And, I get in my car and I always have like this moment where I chuckle and I laugh, because the people that pay me have no idea that if I could do my bills and provide for my family and not have to do it for money, I would do what I do every day for free.
Yeah, me too. I absolutely do. And, I do believe so there's this huge shift, I believe, that is happening in our universe. And I believe, and I've heard, that there's some humanitarian funds that are going to become available for people like us who have a purpose, that we want to help people, in whatever way. We have different missions, but it's still the same as making people's lives better,
Right.
And I've been trying to inspire my followers to, like, if time and money weren't an issue, what would you do to serve humanity? And start thinking, because there's going to be plenty of money available for those projects, and we know what the need is,
Right.
So when all that unravels and it all is actually here, I'll give you all the juicy details so that you can actually live by that and be able to be very comfortable with your family and with, paying your bills.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I started a nonprofit, and the beautiful thing about it, and I'll it's a long story, so I'll share it. Short version is I was working for a nonprofit. They would give me curriculums to work with the youth, and when they would fail, I would get in trouble. So someone would go buy a curriculum on the internet, tell me to do it. When I do it and I didn't do it successfully, I would get in trouble. So what I did is I created my own curriculum, which I call Power of Peace. I went to my nonprofit. I said, I have this curriculum. I created it. I want you to pay me a salary and I'll do it for you. So I started to do it for the nonprofit. And what happened is they started to gain success. And when you talk about funding, one day my executive director sat me down and showed me like what kind of funding streams were coming in because of my successful program. Why she did it, I don't know, because she created an issue, because now I'm seeing what I get paid. But then she's showing me how much money comes in. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait a second, you're paying me this amount of money. This is the money you're getting. So I left it alone. But they took me to a lunch to schmooze a philanthropist to give more money to my program. So imagine I get to the meeting and, it's my boss, the guy that writes grants, this woman and her lawyer, and she's loaded. She's money. And so, everybody's talking and they throw it to me. And I'm very much into my spirituality. And so when it got to me, I started to go into the success of my program. But I sat back and I started to talk about my spirituality. Now, that's a no-no. So I'm talking about that at a business lunch. And, my boss turns red. The guy with the grant writer turns red. But long story short, the philanthropist was very spiritual herself. And when you talk about humanity and money coming through, this woman, I started my nonprofit because we made a connection and she pulled me right out of that nonprofit. And that's how I started my own nonprofit, which I call Youth Voices Center.
How long ago did you do that? That's a great story, by the way.
Thank you. I did it in 2008.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. So I have a youth development program I call Power of Peace. I take it into high school. So imagine if you were a principal and I met with you. I do 20 kids at a time in a group. And in my group, I ask for a cross section of students. So out of the 20 kids, I want white, black, Latino, honor roll athlete. I put them in a room and I run them through a 2-day experiential experience. And what I do is, what I believe is that as humans, we go through life and we step on landmines. They don't blow us up, but they cause damage. And we start to make decisions based on the damage rather than what's going on in real time. So what I do is I take these teenagers and I run them through an experience so that they start to see their landmines and start to make choices based on real time rather than what they went through as they were growing up. And you know, what you find is there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of things these young people go through. And because they don't find a way to deal with it, the issue becomes, I call it, I have a term, be the driver of your car, not the passenger of your car. They become the passenger of their car and their issues become the driver of their car. And what I want to teach them is that we're products of our thought lives and that we have total control over what thoughts we keep or kick out of our heads.
Mm-hmm. Law of attraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that because your thoughts determine your actions and your feelings. So it's like do a pattern interrupt and catch yourself when you're going down that negative thought trail before you get in the pit, you know?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Yes. I bet they get so much out of that experience too.
Well, you know what? It's multi-layered. So what I love about it is they get to know themselves on an individual level, but because my group is a cross-section, what you get is you get young people who would never, ever speak to each other, create bonds. So let me tell you, I do an exercise, which I call concentric circles. So I'll put them inner circle and an outer circle, and they're facing each other. And I give them 5 questions that they're going to ask and answer 5 different people. So I'm going to rotate them 5 times. The first question is a person or people I respect and why I respect them. The second one is qualities that I look for in a friend and why. The third one is if I had the power to change something in the world, what would it be and why? The fourth one would be a time that I felt most hurt by someone I trusted. And the last one is a time that I lost someone that I really cared about. So imagine you come in a room, you don't know these people. I do this like mid-morning after some other icebreakers. They go through these 5 questions, then I pull them back out. I do everything in a circle. I pull them back out to the circle and I stop them. And I say, do you feel that? And it's amazing. 99.9% of the time, this group goes from strangers to after 5 questions, the essence in the room is, I mean, it's beautiful. And what happens and what I explain to them, and they dive into it even deeper in the experience, is that when they walked into the room, everybody was just a face. Once they answer these 5 questions, all of the faces become people. And see, you can treat a face and a person 2 different ways. And so they realize that when they walk through the hallways, they're seeing people. They're not just seeing faces. And that's how I'm able to change some of the culture and the climate in some of these buildings where I work.
That's lovely. That is so lovely. I love it. I heard something that you might enjoy as well that kind of goes with what you just said, is that we don't have a soul. We are a soul and we have a body.
Right.
I love that quote because then
yeah,
we're not just people, we're souls. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Our skin might be different colors, but our heart is all the same.
All the same, babe.
You know?
All the same. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're singing my song.
Well, after I read your bio and checked you out, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, come on the show. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
So,
cut from the same cloth. Yep.
you know, and it is important. Like somebody that came on my show once said a quote that I'll never forget that stuck with me. She said, "Let your mess be your message."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's that. And I made a business from it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Me too. I mean,
yeah,
I always tell my clients when I first like start the whole process is that I'm not perfect. You know,
yeah.
nobody's perfect. We're just, and that's not the goal. It's just progress. You know, just do a little better every day. Sometimes you're going to backslide, but still just keep moving forward. You know, but yeah, that's cool. That's exciting. So you also said you work with adults. What do you do for adults?
So what I do with the adults is exactly the same thing. My curriculum is not youth-based. So I'm able to bring adults into a room and do the exact same activities to ultimately get the same goals. I mean, with a teenager, you're trying to dig into some of the things at a younger age so that they have less less trouble. But what I find with adults is, and it breaks my heart, is to find an adult who has endured something throughout their lives and totally think they've buried it, but it's right there and it's right in front of them. And so, you know, what I find when I work with the adults, just like the youth, is the fact that like my alcoholic dad has no control over my life. None. I didn't bring any of his residue into what I do in present time. But there's people, and actually a few of my siblings, who allowed what happened because they didn't process it properly to become part of their dysfunction in their daily movement. So, you know, I'm a firm believer on using our life stories as a manual of how we progress and move forward. So with adults, you know, either it's within the group, like I do with my students, or I do it one-to-one counseling where I have a gift to be able to allow a person to unload, and then I'm able to take their words, give them meaning, but also find a fresh perspective of what they said. Sometimes a person will tell you something and actually answer their own question, but don't even realize that they've been able to do that.
Well, I believe that the intuition is what helps that happen, you know, the spirit inside of us. The intuition is a gift that sometimes a lot of time we don't stop and listen to it, you know, what those messages are, those downloads. So you being able to help them realize that is so important. So how do you help people like unpack that emotion that they have stuffed away that keeps turning up? Like, is it that same little circle thing or the same 2-day program? Or
Well, right. Yeah. Well, it could either be either an adult workshop, or I do the same as individual, because in the adult workshops, what I want to do is I really use the other members to help coax them to walk in the line of their story. See, you know, people, if you got 20 people in a group and so everyone goes as an individual, each time a person steps out behind their curtain, it gives the other person courage.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I get 20 people in the room and people people are starting to step out, it gets to the point where you can't wait, and I'm watching them, So it goes from an experience of, I don't know if I really want to be here, to I can't wait till it's my turn, because what people eventually feel is when you start to unload some of that stuff that's deeply rooted, you know, because we've been talking about soul, and I know that you understand it, but your spirit becomes lighter, because those are the things that you've been holding on to that's giving you that weight. And so, I find that back to the intuitiveness is I have a gift to ask the right questions. My activities brings them to a place where my activities, like I do another activity with them, which I call Who Am I? So what I have them do is I have them write down 10 words or phrase that would answer the question, who am I? Positive or negative. And I let them know that nobody will see it, so they don't have to feel as if somebody's going to see what they wrote. Once they get the 10 words down, I have them prioritize them. So now they prioritize least important to most important. And then I read a script for each one. So I'll say, turn over to paper number 1. And I'll say, how does it feel with your relationships? How does it feel with the way you live your life? And I have them, after each one, crumble it up and drop it on the floor in front of them. So at the end of my script, all 10 papers are crumbled up. And then what I say to them is, now that all of them are gone, reach down and only pick up the ones you want. The ones you don't want, leave on the floor, and then I continue through the script. And what it does is it allows us to start to prioritize where we put our energy. Mm-hmm. And in self-reflection, people get so busy, and busy is sometimes part of how people avoid dealing with their issues. So if I'm dealing with an issue, rather than giving myself quiet time, I just go from place to place to place to place to place to keep me busy, because idle time makes me think of what causes me pain. I have this activity and people actually cry as I'm going through the script, because now it's on pause. There's not enough going on to block what you're thinking. And they start saying to themselves like, wow, but then what's good is the ones that they don't pick up. It's almost like Alcoholic Anonymous. Coming to the meeting, admitting that you drink is the first step to being recovered. When these people have the papers on the floor, I tell them, don't feel discouraged. This is the first step to change anything that's on your floor, because you've acknowledged it.
That's awesome. I love it. That is super cool. So with COVID and everything, what are you doing? Like, have you been able to continue all of this the last year or what?
Let me tell you, you talking about the universe. Right before COVID, I went to a branding conference out in LA, and the guy was pushing branding your business. He was pushing global awareness. So he says, if you want your business to be successful, people have to know you globally. So I come home, and this is how I found you. I come home and I started to Google and find podcasts that match the same theme that I have. I've been on over 150 podcasts since COVID. Yeah, 150 different platforms. I'm talking about, I bet, dog trainers, music teachers, blended. I mean, anyone that I felt that we had some similarity, and some people got offended. I would send the same invitation I sent to you. And if they felt like, almost like, I didn't really read their stuff, they would send me this nasty email back. And I would say whatever, but I was just doing it because I felt we matched. But what I've been able to do is I've been able to take my in-person workshops and do them virtually.
Oh, good.
So I do so I do those virtually. And then I was able to um, um, create some other models that can relate to people that are not directly the same as what I was doing. So I was doing workshops with adults, but mainly for encouragement and building the self-esteem and a purpose in life. But now with what's going on in society, I've built a component that I'm bringing into the corporate world for inclusion and diversity with what's going on with the, with racial right, Black Lives Matter and all those things. Once COVID lifts and everyone goes back to an office, if you don't have a tool in place, you can't put those people back in the office to work together. You have to have some work to develop some relationships. So I created a component to do that as well. So during COVID, when we talk about perspective, with people's lives perspective, what I was able to do is I stopped, did not panic, and I was able to find a really fresh perspective so that I've now opened up myself to different streams of financially for myself in the midst of a crisis.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Whose seminar did you take in LA?
His name was Andy Odette.
Oh, I don't know him.
He was It was interesting. He what was nice is between me and you, it was a ploy to get you there. Like, it was real cheap to get there, but like once you got all the information, if you didn't have a business or something in place already, you would have to hire him to go to the next level. The beauty is I had everything. So when he was talking to me, I was just checking it off. And so when he went for the big pitch for, all right, now at this point, you can hire me I was putting my stuff in my briefcase and getting on a plane. And I came back and I was able to take everything that he gave me in a 2-day period. And I swallowed it up. I ate it up. And it was the best experience that I had.
You're so cute, Michael. That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention, I also have a nonprofit that we just filed the paperwork in October, but we still haven't gotten the 501c3 response from the IRS.
Okay.
But it's called Healthy Hope, and it's for widows. And I was told by one of my teachers, gosh, over a year ago, she's like, you are going to be having a nonprofit for widows. She's very, very, very spiritual. And I said, oh, okay. And I just kind of blew it off at the time. And then all of a sudden, like, a prospective client came across my board and was talking about she was a widow. And I go, oh, good. I mean, not good, right? I mean, but I'm well, I guess you're the first one. So
right.
That's how we just got that going. So it's cool.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. You there's space created, for people that are in need, you know what I'm saying? And so, I commend you and keep at it, because sometimes nonprofits can be difficult, and if you're not committed to it, it will deter you from walking that out completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just don't know what I'm doing, to be honest. I mean, it's just, if somebody applies to work with me and they're a widow, they get it for free, So at this point, that's all it is, So they get my regular group program that, I charge for. They just get it for free. So, but hopefully someday we'll create more structure around it once I get my approval,
There you go. Yes. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, what message would you want to leave with the listeners? Like, what wisdom would you like to tell them?
So I wrote a book. It's called Be Encouraged. The book, I can mention it?
Yeah, of course.
I'm just giving permission. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I wrote a book. It's called Be Encouraged. When I have my spiritual time in the morning, when I come out of it, for years, I would write a post for Facebook and I would post it. And, it was just for my followers. And a woman was dying of cancer. And she comes into my inbox and she says, listen, Michael, I love your stuff, but I wish I could get it in one place. And I'm like, whoa, she zapped me with an idea. So what I did is my wife and I gathered some of the good, what we call favorites. I got 250 of them because my book is Be Encouraged, 250 Days of Encouragement and Inspiration. And what I do in the book is each page, you read it and it prepares you for the day, but I put the book together and I dedicate it to the woman that was dying of cancer. So, it was almost like a gift to her. But what I want to leave with your audience is on like the third page. I wrote this: short-term thinkers plant gardens, long-term thinkers plant trees, eternity-minded thinkers plant themselves in the souls of others, and what is meant by that is the fact that when we speak to people, we have to say to ourselves, when we leave them, they have to feel as if they've been touched. We have to be that deliberate in our conversations so that it gets to be paid forward. Mm-hmm. And so if the world would embrace that, it would be an amazing place. I think just living a life of consciousness, walking into a room, and I call it with the teenagers is I walk into a room and I find the rhythm, and once I find that rhythm, you find the rhythm and you just look for an opportunity to speak into someone's life and bring them peace.
Yeah. I love that. So when you said frequency, have you studied stuff like about quantum physics and all of the vibration and all of that?
No, but I was on a podcast and someone that has explained to me what I do in a room with my gift. So I was doing some of these things, but I had no clue. I was just doing what I felt was natural to me, but I was actually using certain energy within a room. So it was beautiful to have them take their knowledge and explain to me on a different level the energy that I create in the room throughout my process.
Oh yeah, energy's huge. Like if you look at our body, like if you look at our body, we're made of cells, which are made of molecules, and then those are made of atoms, right? If you look at an atom in a subatomic microscope, you know what you're going to see in that slide?
What's that?
You're going to see empty space primarily, 99.9% empty space with a few subatomic particles like protons, neutrons, electrons. So what that tells you is that we are over 99% just energy. If every atom that our body's made of is 99.9% of energy, that transfers right over to our whole physiology. It's pretty crazy, right? That sounds pretty important, and nobody's talking about that.
Yeah. I guess that's what I take advantage of.
Yes. So, but if think about that though. I mean, you just made me think. So if we focus mostly on our energy, then it's going to be 99% of our results. It makes sense that way, right? So, that's cool that you do that. So where can they get your book?
They can actually go to shakethedirtexperience.com. We'll put it in the show notes, and they can get a free copy. They just have to pay for the postage, but they go to shakethedirtexperience.com, enter their information, and they can get a free copy of the book. Also within that, I have my one-to-one counseling, and also I have a course. I call it a 10-day challenge, so they can take a look at that as well.
Oh, awesome. And then what about like on social? Are you on Facebook or?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook. We'll put my name in the show notes. Come to Facebook. I have a group in Facebook called Be Encouraged, the title of my book. LinkedIn. My Instagram I have an Instagram, CT Thunder. It's professional/fun. I was once a bodybuilder, so you may see me flexing a few times on there. But it's my business/fun. And I'm interactive. So if you follow me on any one of my platforms, you comment, you leave me messages, I'm quick to return them. And I like to be involved with my followers.
Cool. Are you still bodybuilding?
I don't compete, but I still watch what I eat. This would be a whole nother podcast, so we don't have to get into it. I had a cyst on my spinal cord that was removed, but it caused nerve damage in my legs, which gives me the ability to do cardio because my legs don't build lactic acid. So that being said, you as a trainer, I do endless cardio. So I do 4.5 to 5 hours cardio a day.
A day?
Plus a day, plus anaerobic. So I work out and then I do the cardio.
Oh my gosh. What do you do for cardio that you do that much?
So because of the injury, and I have all my cardio machines at home, I start with an hour on a recumbent bike where I do my studies and I read. Then I train for about an hour and a half. Then I have a stand-up elliptical. So I'll do the elliptical. Then I'll get off my elliptical. I have a spin bike. I'll spin. I'll get off my spin bike. I have the seated elliptical pedals, and I'll do those. And then I finish back on the recumbent just for finishing. And as a personal trainer, it's not the healthiest. I do it because I can, but also the trade-off for calories. Can you imagine how many calories I burn per day? So that means if I want to eat the cheeseburger or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't, but I'm just saying it gives me the ability to be flexible.
Hey, don't blame the cheeseburger for what the bun did.
Yeah. But I'm still very active. I was always an athlete, and part of, and don't shoot me for this, but part of it is somewhat vanity. Like I work out because I want to be healthy, but also because I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be the guy that was the jock in high school, and that people would love to point to my picture. Yeah, point to my picture on Facebook and be like, "You remember him? He was the captain of the football team, and look at him now." So they don't get to say that about me.
Yeah, look at him now. He's bald and fat.
Yeah. They don't get any redemption.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Michael, it was absolutely a pleasure having you on the show today. And I really enjoyed our conversation. And I love hearing how you're really going out there and helping other people create success in their lives.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Please go and check out Michael's links, check out his book, sign up for one of his seminars, and I hope that you were inspired and got your own little nuggets today. If you think this podcast would help somebody, please forward them the link so that they can be inspired by Michael's message as well. Make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.